guys, how are you? This is Lois. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you're well and safe wherever you are. We are good here. It's the end of summer, so we are starting to see the weather get a little gloomy. Soon and very soon we're gonna have the trees lose their leaves. The leaves are gonna start turning yellow. Yeah, it gets a little depressive a little bit, but I'm not here to talk about weather. No. Today I want to make a video about occupations that are regulated in Canada and what you should know before you immigrate. Yes, I said before you immigrate. And the reason I want you to listen to this video before you even take up that first step of immigration is this can be a very tricky subject. And it can also be a very frustrating subject. And I'm saying this from experience. I live here. I have seen people, who've invested a lot of money, a lot of time to immigrate. Of course, you immigrate here mostly based on your skill sets. So the people who work in regulated fields, if you're working in a regulated field in your country, most likely it's going to be regulated in this country as well. So just be very conscious to know exactly what you're getting yourself into. Are you going to be able to practice in your field immediately you arrive in Canada? If you're not able to do that, what should you do to be able to work in your field? Okay, so just to say, in Canada, about 20% of the jobs are regulated to help protect the health and safety of Canadians. So this ensures that the professionals and the tradespeople meet the required standards of practice and competency. Okay? So we have two types of occupations here. So we have the regulated occupations, which are 20%, whereby the recognition of your qualifications will be determined by the appropriate provincial or territorial regulatory body. And then the other type is the non-regulated, of course, that is the 20%, the 80%, come on, whereby the recognition is at the employer's discretion. Okay, here in that 80%, licensing is optional. So you choose what you want to do. If it makes you feel better, you go for it, but it's not a requirement. You need to look at a job before you apply for it to see whether it's needed, whether the employer says that, they're gonna say it's not mandatory, but it's not necessary, but it's nice to have. So you can choose. So at times you're going to find that licensing in those non-regulated occupations, at times you may find that you get a better pay for that licensing. Okay, all right. So to be able to work in a regulated profession or even a trade and use that reserved title, doctor, CPA, etc., whatever, engineer, you must obtain a license to practice or a certificate of qualification. Okay. There is a lot of frustration, and I will say this, there's a lot of frustration for licensed professional immigrants when they land here and they try to practice. Then you realize that, fine, you qualified, you immigrated, of course you came here because of your qualification, but you can't practice. You're a doctor, now you can just come here and work. So there is that kind of frustration, and I see it here. And then you realize that now to get licensed, that is a very long journey. It can be long, it can be tedious, can be painful, it can be treacherous. Okay? So have that knowledge. Set your expectations before you start this whole thing, before you start to immigrate. Know what you're getting yourself into. And I'm saying this because I've seen people who, of course, as I've said, you come here based on your skill sets. The higher your education, the better, the better your chances. Of course, you're younger, and of course, you have high skill sets and education. But so that gets you into the door, that gets you into Canada. That doesn't mean that is going to help you practice in your profession. And I'm just talking with regards to the licensed people. The ECA that you took, that was for immigration purposes. That was not for licensing purposes. Okay, so just know that there's that difference. So I have seen a lot of people who come here and they get stuck. And we shall see why at times people get stuck. They get stuck simply because they cannot practice in their professions, and others, they just give up and they go back. They pack within a year, within 2 years, they pack their bags and go home. So to save you that whole pain, I'm not trying to discourage you. People, hold your horses. I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm trying to help you manage your expectations, to help you make a better decision, so that when you're immigrating, when you're making that decision, you have that open mind. Then you can say, do I go, do I not? Right? Because we all have those dreams. You want to immigrate because you want to come make money, of course, in your field, make better money. That's one of the main reasons, because you know what, money is everything. Hey. So then you come here and realize that you may not be able to get that because you don't have the licensing for that, and you may have to take something substandard, to help you live day to day, because come on, you still got bills to pay. Okay, so anyway, so you must be registered by the appropriate body, and each body has got its own procedures and requirements. There's no one size fit all for this, so just know that these licensing requirements are going to differ by provinces. That again takes us back to what we've been saying. Make sure that you're choosing your province wisely. There's some provinces where competition is very hard, so check your professions, check the how people in your profession do in that province, and then you're able to make a better decision. So always, when you think of a province and you're in a licensed profession, make sure you check the regulatory body in that province and learn the requirements for licensing. Okay? Anyway, we have two types of regulation here. We have the regulated professionals. And when I say regulated professionals, I mean people like doctors, nurses, lawyers, engineers, architects, and a lot of all the medical fields. CPAs, educators, social workers, veterinarians, human resource professionals, teachers, massage therapists, all those, etc. Those are not the only ones. And then, of course, we have the regulated trades. And these are people like plumbers, mechanics, steam fitters, electricians, etc. And for the purpose of this video, I'm not going to concentrate on the trades people, simply because that's like a whole video on its own. Okay? So, I said, before you fill your form, before you pay anything, stop and research. Research your profession. Even maybe talk to a professional here in Canada, someone who is on the ground, who can tell you exactly what it entails for you to be able to practice in your field. Okay? Know that you may not be able to work in your field without licensing, and that may take a long time and may cause you delays towards your immigration goals. Okay? Towards you making money, making a living, right? So be prepared mentally that you may have to practice. You may never not be prepared that you may never ever practice in your field, or be ready to do something else, to have an alternative. Be ready to do something related to your occupation that is not licensed, while you either pursue your licensing, or just not even pursue it at all. Okay? I have seen people who try to pursue licensing before they arrive here. But I do recommend that you pursue licensing in Canada. And I'll tell you why I do recommend you pursue licensing after you arrive here. When you're trying to pursue licensing outside Canada, there's going to be many obstacles. Of course, distance is one thing. You don't understand the whole situation properly. The other one, if you don't have the luxury of time, this process, of course, can cost you precious eligibility years. And guess what? Policies do change every time in this country. That is immigration policies. And you never know. You may also get caught up in an unpredictable situation like COVID-19 caught us, right? So if you had put off applying, waiting to go through licensing, right now you start somewhere still trying to do licensing. Okay, so that costs you years. You know how vital years are when you're immigrating. So, every year that you spend, you've not arrived in Canada, is costing you a lot of points in your express entry profile. Okay, so when you land in Canada, after you immigrate and all that, you've landed. Hey, after you get your permanent resident card and you get your SIN number, the first thing, if you want to practice in your profession, the first thing that you need to do is pursue your licensing, like tomorrow. Yeah. Check out the licensing body of your profession and get the requirements based on your province. Okay, the licensing bodies, they are called PROs. That is a professional regulatory organization. Okay, an example, I'm just gonna give you an example of licensing here in Alberta. So how many steps? We have about 7 steps to licensing. So the first thing you do is determine if your profession is licensed in this province. How do you do that? You go online to a website called ALIS Alberta, and ALIS is ALIS Alberta. Check whether your profession is licensed. Step 2, contact your PRO and seek all the requirements towards your licensing. Step 3, gather all the required documents. Remember that ECA, then get work references because you must prove your work experience. Get your resume and get your personal identity documents ready. Step 4 is request for education transcripts from the issuing authorities. Check if the issuing authority should send directly to your PRO. Okay, step number 5, make sure that your documents are translated to English. Yes, and follow the whole process of translation. If they need a notary public, if they need to be notarized, make sure you're following that procedure to the T. Okay, step number 6 is get your application fees because everything is gonna cost money. Yeah. And step 7, complete and submit your application. If your PRO needs you to do exams, make sure that you check the exam dates, the available exam dates, and book them and be available for those exam dates. Okay, so at that point, the PRO is going to assess your documentation, of course, and make an interim decision. If you don't meet the requirements, you may be required to take further exams or maybe even obtain practical work experience. For example, medical doctors may be required to do medical residency. Lawyers may be needed to do legal articling. So be ready and know what is needed and be ready to do that. Okay. You may also be required to upgrade your education by taking special courses or bridging programs. If you do not meet the requirements for the license, you may want to consider alternative jobs. Yes, remember we talked about alternative jobs? You may want to consider that. And those are things that I tell people, consider them before you start. Have that in mind. Have that open mind that, you know what, even if I don't become a medical doctor, maybe I can be this. So for example, if you're a teacher, be ready that you can do something like early childhood education. If you're a nurse and you're not able to get your licensing immediately, or you don't want to pursue it for various reasons, maybe you want to move into something like health insurance officer. If you're an engineer, you may want to go to applied science technician, etc. Look for things that relate to your work experience and your skill sets that doesn't necessarily need regulation. Okay. So this allows you to work while you wait for your licensing or upgrading, or while you're doing nothing else and you're just here and you're like, you know what, I'm happy to have immigrated. Okay. So at times you will find that these requirements they amount to doing like the whole course again. Yes. Yeah. It may actually mean like going back to school and doing the whole thing again because the requirements are just too many. Okay, so beware. I have seen a lot of frustration. I said I'm not here to discourage you, but that ECA, that master's degree that you showed and got you that ECA, that credential, that was to facilitate your immigration, not to facilitate you working in a licensed field. Okay. Working in a different field, we've seen that that's a whole different monster that you just have to tackle on your own. Yeah, I'm not discouraging you. I'm just trying to prepare you. You know, I'm asking you to manage your expectations because this is one of the reasons why people go back. home. Yes. And before you do that, why do all that? Why invest all that time and money and everything that you got only to come back and go home simply because you didn't know what exactly laid in wait for you? Okay, when you arrive in your province, check out the settlement organizations in your city that can actually do help you. I know I've had questions from people who've arrived here and they don't know how to go about this. One of the best things that I say, join an association of your like-minded professionals. Some associations don't really need like the full license. You can always get there like a trainee or something like that. Okay, join there, because now you're going to meet people of, you know, who've gone through the whole process, or who are even going through the process with you. So you get partners, you get people, you get cohorts. So do that. Also do meetups. Like here in Calgary, I know people do meetups. There will be like engineer meetups somewhere. Join them, go talk, interact, create your networks. Okay? Above all, be open-minded, be ready, and start doing something on the side that is going to help you towards your goal. Okay? That's all I want to tell you about licensing today. I know it's a lot of work, and it's not the best news, but it happens. It's been happening. I go to Walmart sometimes and I talk to people, because I like talking to people, and people tell me, I've seen a lot of people from India who tell me that they were engineers. There's a lot of taxi drivers in this country who are engineers, who are architects, who are even doctors in their countries. Why? Because the process of licensing can be quite hard. If you don't have that willpower, if you feel like you don't have the years to go back to school, you know, it's also gonna cost you money. At times you may just have to weigh your options. So I'm not saying don't come here. I'm just saying, you know, come ready to do that something extra, something else, the alternative. Okay, all right guys, get ready, you know, start working on that immigration dream, you know, and I'll see you at my next video.